Welcome to Center Heist Productions. Please hit the likes and subscribe down below on your right hand corner. Muchly appreciate that. Thank you to my subscribers and followers, as I muchly appreciate your support. Please share it with your friends and family as we try to grow this channel. And again, we take great pride. We have a good community here that we've built. And leave your comments at the end of each video if you'd like. And I do my best. I get a little busy sometimes because I do an outreach as well. But I will try to get back to you at some point in time. Leave your comments and tell me what your thoughts were on the game that we review. And this one here is Montreal headed into Detroit last night, and this had major playoff implications anyway. We take great pride, though. Our mission statement here is we don't focus on rumorville. We stay clear of the rumors, and we wait till factual information falls, then report on it. So we take great pride in. We're not just going to be here to feed you a bunch of malarkey garbage just to get likes that way. We'd rather just do honest, straight up, factual information. And we don't use clickbait to get you here. Anyway, there we go. We are going into this, and the Montreal Canadiens ended up losing this game, and this could be the game that they missed the playoffs. I said this all along. I had a feeling that we may just miss the playoffs. I've been saying that. I think, yeah, we might have more points than last year, but there's such a logjam in the East, and so many teams have improved in this dogfight that I think we're going to miss. Even though we've improved in wins columns, I think we're going to miss. And this was the type of game we had to win. And it was sad because Dobes played really strong. He deserved a victory, truthfully. And his defense collapsed in the end. Mistakes cost them. Between Newhook and Mike Matheson blowing a tire, those two particular plays stood out for them losing this game. Anyway, let's get to it. First period, there was no scoring. Montreal starts the scoring in the second period with a goal on the power play by Slavkovsky, assisted. I'll go to that after, but I believe it was by Caulfield and Suzuki. And then Detroit comes right back with 3 goals in the third. Now, mind you, one of them being an empty netter, they defeat the Habs 3-1. This has major ramifications, in my opinion. They may be looking back at this game as why they missed the playoffs. Saturday is going to be crucial. They have to beat the Islanders, and I don't know if they can. All right, so we had the third star, Juraj Slavkovsky with his only goal. The only goal. Comper was the second star with the goal, and DeBrincat with the goal and 2 assists, of course, would be the first star. Let's get to the scoring summary. We had in the second period, like I said, 17:45. Slavkovsky gets a nice goal in the slot power play goal, sent by Caulfield, who passed it from the left side of the net. And of course, Nick Suzuki had made the pass to Caulfield. So finally, they cash in on the power play, but that power play they got to really get work on that. Their defensive play, though, they need a new defense coach, and I don't care what anyone says. The structure is not working for them. Next, we end up that was the second period when the first goal was scored. There was no scoring in the first. So get into the third, and Montreal blows it. This is where Newhook got caught looking around, not taking his man. 2:14, J.D. Comper gets a goal assisted by Patrick Kane and DeBrincat. 16:35, DeBrincat. This is the one where Mike Matheson bobbles the puck, and DeBrincat picks it up, and you can't let a goal scorer like this is a goal scorer's goal. There's not a damn thing Dobes could do about this goal. It's a pretty goal. Goal scorers tend to come through. You give them 2 or 3 cracks, they're going to get either 1 or 2 in. You give them that many chances. And then, of course, the empty netter at 19:43, assisted by DeBrincat, of course. Yeah, disappointment. This game was very disappointing if you're a Habs fan. 33 shots to 28 in favor of Montreal. hits 35 to 27, and they're again. This is why Montreal has to get heavier. 35 to 27 in favor of Detroit. Penalty minutes were even at 8. Uh, Face-off percentile was in Montreal's favor at 54.4, 55.4, sorry, and Detroit 44.6. Boy, I'm having troubles with my tongue. Bear with me. So that is your stats. This has got major ramifications because everybody else in the East won last night. So Boston's back in a tie with us. Detroit's in a tie with us. Ottawa's in the very. They're not that far off. They're climbing back in. Um, and yeah, so that's where things sit in Montreal. Just to me, what the schedule they got coming up in Columbus is on fire. I don't know how. I think this might have cost them the season. This is just my thoughts. I called this game. I said to several people that I associate with there was going to be a two-goal differential. I was correct. Mind you, yes, one of the goals was technically this was 2-1, but empty netter, it's 3-1. So I was right with that. There was a two-goal. I just knew the way Montreal's been playing Detroit of late, and Detroit's got it together this year. And we always knew they had the talent to be a playoff team. They're very good, and they're heavy. They're big, and that's where Montreal has to make some changes. I know it's a nice thing that Montreal didn't, in some senses, didn't block their kids. However, guys like Newhook, and I was, yeah, Newhook's a beauty for his speed, but that's all he's really, his main weapon is. He has not been right since he's been back. Um, our defense structure, they're still making these dumbass mistakes. I've said it all along. With this system, whoever, and I assume, it's the defensive coach running the defensive system. That would just be the logic in it. Um, I'm sorry. It's not to say he's a bad coach. It's just to simply say he's not at the level of what Montreal needs. Montreal's got some good. They got to size up anyway in the back end. Anyway, we know there's a size issue here. Um, Carrier, as far as I'm concerned, is not played well. He's making a lot of mistakes. I would actually be rotating him into sitting out. And I'm sorry. Yes, I know that Jack. I make some bad plays at times. So does Struble. um, I just think the way Carrier has played, he's been more of he's got to get his act together between taking bad penalties, not in control of his stick, and I think he's trying. Again, I kind of agree with Per McGuire on this. I think he's trying to do too much, and he may have let some of the public opinion that he is more of an offensive defenseman than he is, and he is not that. He's got to get back to what he was when he came to Montreal in the beginning, when he played well in Nashville. And until he goes back, and this becomes a problem because several of these guys are losing their identity. Bolduc, I don't know. And I think he's got to really get a grip. I don't know what they can do with this kid. This kid's got talent, and it's a shame, but he's lost his identity. I think Newhook's starting to head into that identity crisis himself. Needs to be sad a bit. Um, our defense again is a different situation back there. We got to size up, and we need a little more grit because these defensemen. One thing I've noticed in all of these games, physically, we're getting out muscled in the defensive zone. There's no and ifs and buts or whats, and our defense are not learning how to get on the right side of sticks, even and on bodies. Too many, and this goes for the forwards as well when they're coming back to drop back and take a man. Take the stick, wrap up the stick, so that they can't do nothing if you take the stick at least. If you're not a big enough defense, then you're going to have to utilize other avenues of how to shut down players. But there's nobody strong enough to muscle people out of the front of the net. And I'm sorry, this is the knock I do have against Dobson. That's his weak point, is the defensive zone, and that's also, even though Matheson's been their best defenseman, that's his weak point too. So it's kind of scary when you look at the side. These guys, not the most aggressive. They're going to have to find some grit on the offseason for that defense and size. They need some nastiness on that end. That's why I say, that's why I'm afraid they are going to get rid of Jack High, but I think it's a mistake. I think you got to work with this kid a whole lot more. Um, there's got to be somebody's putting in a little more time, I think, with him. And, he came up a little differently than most defensemen. But he's exactly the type of player they need, but they need more than just one. Like I say, even Gooley to me has not played the same since he's been back. I need to see a little more grit out of Texier and Bolduc when they're on a line there. Like I said, Bolduc, he's just got to get back. He's got to start firing the puck. That's half the thing, being in the right spot. It's great that he's just totally lost who he is. He's not even knowing where. You got to get to where he used to get when he was in St. Louis, into the right spot and firing from that slot area. And he's just lost that whole capacity. So the defensive play and line two was a problem last night. I don't know what the hell happened. Well, Newhook had a horrible game. That was evidence that I think that Newhook dragged that second line down. Um, that line just did not have a good game, and I don't know. Maybe they got to put Slav back there and come up with someone else going to the first. I think Texier should be back on the first line myself. I think he's the right choice for the first line if you move Slav, because that second line's too good for what has happened to it. It's just lost its zap, and I had a fear that was going to happen when Slav got put on the first line. It's great that Slav is, yes, in the future you can keep Slav on the first line. But right now, I don't think we're at that point. We still are missing that top six player. And until we get it, so that you have somebody to play with Kapanen and Demidov, it ain't going to work right, because they were working very well with Slav. And I think you got to put Slav there for the time being. I just really do. I don't think there's much of a choice. I mean, maybe you do try Texier there. It wouldn't hurt. You could try that out. Something's got to give, but I'll tell you right now, Saturday's game with the Islanders coming, we got to win that game. This is an absolute must win. If Montreal loses this game, you can say goodbye to the playoffs. I'm. You can say you've seen it here at Center Heights Productions. I already think this Detroit game may have cost them the season. I just think there's just too many important games and too many of those teams that they're going to meet, like Columbus, on the schedule, Buffalo, those type of games. They're playing some, and the Islanders, and teams like that. They're just it's just too tough of a schedule. I even think we got another. I'm not sure, but we may have Detroit again. Have to check that. But however, you look at our schedule, the games that are left, and it is not pretty. It's not pretty, and I think the Habs are going to be in. I just think if they don't finally defeat, and they've had nothing but nightmares with the Islanders since Watt took over, they have to come through this time. This is a must, must, must. If they want to see any postseason action, they have to beat the Islanders. I don't care what you got to do it. There's a lot of guys who should be playing with a guilty conscience after last night. Like, I'm sorry, Matheson, that's just not characteristic of him, blowing a tire like that. So one of the top goal scorers, skates in, and Dobes hasn't got a prayer in hell. And Dobes fought his ass off last night. Deserved a victory, actually. He didn't deserve the fate he got. So this was not goaltending. This was defensive play that cost him this game. Sloppiness, same errors. Yeah, I think you got to bring in a defensive specialist to coach that defense and implement a better defensive structure that will work for this bunch, this group of players. There's sometimes you have to find a different system that works for a certain group, a certain style of players, and this is a smaller defense, in my opinion. They're going to have to, it's evident what they're doing. This hybrid thing is not working with them. At least the way this hybrid is being coached, it's not getting through the brain cells, and that goes on the forwards as well. Buying into it, the communication's got to improve horrendously, because I think that's one of the biggest, between the lack of communication and the not tying up sticks and taking like I say, they're getting out muscled, and Carrier is really getting out muscled. Take the bloody stick at least. And the forwards, like even Kapanen's been having a little bit of a rough ride of late. And Newhook, he just stands around and watches. I've always had a knock against his defensive game. That's his problem. He's puck watching all the time. That's got to come out of his game. He can be a super good, talented, good third liner, but he's got to, because he's shown us that in most of his hockey, but he's not playing that way since he's been back from his injury. He had a little spurt of a quick goal here or there, and then it just seemed to all fall apart for him. His defensive play has always been an issue, and they got to get it back together. I hope Anderson is on the mend because it's not good seeing him out. Just not happy with what I'm seeing. Not for when it's that crucial to win. I don't see the same fire. I mean, yes, they're a good team together, but they got to somehow mount up like they did last year and find ways to win. They have to, but I'll tell you now, for me, I don't care what you say. This defensive system has been a problem for about 3 years now, at least. That it's been, I mean, I think it was a problem moment this defensive coach was there. It reared its head up for the last 3 years, more so. It's a problem. It's time to move on. And before we waste this season, you might want to get somebody in there quickly that can turn that defense around, because you need a different system. And somebody's got to hugely work on the communication. I don't care if you got to sit Newhook here or there. Guys like that, Bolduc, same thing. These are two guys, they got to find their game. And to me, it looks like they lost their game. They got to find their identity again. That's not an easy task. But they better find it, or they're not going to find themselves, especially Bolduc. You're going to find yourself out of the NHL if you don't find your identity. So much potential, but you got to find it. And that means you got to bust your ass. And if it means that you're being taught a different brand of game, grab onto something. Try to do the little things right. You do the little things right, usually the rest of it comes in play. So anyway, you've seen it here. That's the end of what I'm going to say. I just knew they weren't going to come through in this game. Had a suspicion. Detroit's been on fire, and we're going to run into all these teams we're running into right now are good teams. We got our hands full. So these guys are going to have to really put it on the line. And this is why I say in the future, we need to size up. Maybe it's time to interject somebody with size into that fourth line just to get some banging going on or something. But then again, like I said, the defensive scheme is not working. That's got to be corrected. And Montreal's got to stop ignoring it, because it's going to be it is their nemesis. You got two goaltenders that can play now. And when we're losing, it seems to be a lot of just continual chances to defense. And that means the forwards in that scheme as well are giving up too many opportunities, too many quality opportunities against goalies. That's got to change. And I don't know what it's going to take, but whatever they're doing right now and have done for the last 3 seasons is not working. There's a time when you got to say enough is enough. It's the same as we had to replace the goalie coach. Enough is enough. It's time to move on and get somebody, a higher quality defensive coach in there that can introduce a much better scheme, and a scheme that works for this group of players. You've seen it here at Center Ice where the puck drops first. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are. All right, take care. Catch you in the review of the Islanders game, and pray to God that they come through, because I do say this is